Good morning, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for July 25th, 2014. It's around 8:15 in the morning in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's going to be a nice and sunny day. Low humidity around 80 degrees. And one thing to say before my first subject of the day, RDT, RDT, RDT. My first subject of the day is a subject I've been hyping about for the past week or so, about a thing an idea I had about doing these video blogs on a podcast I heard about a week and a half ago. I won't mention the name. They were talking about in 1978 in the WWF, if Bob Backlund did not become WWF champion, who would it be? And they were saying if Bob Backlund didn't exist or wasn't ready, they had the list of wrestlers who would have fit the bill to be champion besides him. And it was a pretty impressive list. And that got me for this idea. It came to my head. In 1984, Vince McMahon expanded the WWE to become an international power, and he had Hulk Hogan as his champion. Hulk Hogan beat the Iron Sheik at Madison Square Garden, and for the next 4 years, Hogan ran as WWE champion, became internationally known, was mainstream and stuff like that. And I had this idea: if Vince McMahon could not get Hulk Hogan to sign with him for the WWE expansion, and if Hogan stayed with the AWA or wrestled mainly for Japan or another organization or went to Hollywood, who would Vince McMahon selected as WWE champion during his big expansion period? Because Bob Backlund was champion for 6 years, but he was basically done. The crowd was getting bored with him. He was so many howdy doody and stuff like that. And the Iron Sheik was a transitional champion because WWE is known not to have heel champions for a long time. It was basically a face champion run. They had a big run, like several years run. So I have the list of 10 wrestlers who would have fit the bill, in my opinion. The number one choice was most obvious. It would be Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant was a well-known star. He was very popular in the Northeast and especially around the world. He was mainstream and stuff, and he would have been a good WWE champion, but the lack of this, Andre the Giant was billed as unbeatable. He was actually getting a little up there in age. He was about 37 in 1984, and also he was so over, he really didn't need the title, but he would have been a good choice, in my opinion. The second choice would have been Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Now, this would have been a good pick because Dusty was very popular with fans. He had the mic skills. He was really, he had some runs in New York in the WWF, especially in 1977 with superstar Billy Graham and stuff. But a lot of people would knack at that he was too southern to lead a Northeast-based company. Plus, around this time, he was getting more and more power with booking and stuff like that. So if he became WWE champion, he might have wanted to book himself like more. He wanted to try to get onto the booking committee in the WWE, and that would have been very hard. But it could have worked. It could have worked. I wouldn't mind if it worked. The third person that Vince should have considered, this is another obvious choice: Sgt Slaughter. Sgt Slaughter was a heel, but he was turning face, and he would have been a perfect WWE champion to take the title off the Iron Sheik. They had a big feud in 1984, and Sgt Slaughter actually left the WWE because of a merchandise thing with G.I. Joe, but Vince McMahon could have marketed him as WWE champion as the perfect American hero in 1984 if he couldn't get Hogan. It would have been perfect, but it never came to be. But Sgt Slaughter had a run as WWE champion as a heel back in 1991, but he would have been a perfect face champion for the WWE if Vince couldn't get Hogan. The fourth wrestler on that list, this probably was a maybe an obvious choice as well, was Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Jimmy Snuka, very popular in the WWE fans. He had a feud in 1982 with Bob Backlund over the WWE Championship. Even though he was a heel, playing the heel back then, the fans cheered him like crazy. He jumped the 15-foot high steel crates in Madison Square Garden onto Bob Backlund, and it got the crowd nuts, and they turned him face. Snuka was real over with the crowd, and he would have been perfect as WWE champion. They should have like had that momentum, and he could have been WWE champion. But the problem was, I think Vince didn't trust him because of his legal. He had some legal problems. Plus, he was over 40 around that time. Plus, he had no mic skills. But and there was another thing. He was over with the fans. He really didn't need a title. But I could have seen Snuka maybe as WWE champion, maybe a short run. But who knows? Maybe he would have had a long-term reign. The fifth choice that Vince should have made if he couldn't get Hogan was the modern-day warrior, Kerry Von Erich. Kerry Von Erich had so much charisma. He was very internationally known, especially in world-class championship wrestling with his brothers, feuding with the Fabulous Freebirds and stuff like that. And Kerry Von Erich would have made a great champion. And there was even this was urban legend. If Vince could not get Hulk Hogan to sign a contract to come to New York to be WWE champion, that was Vince's second choice. But I don't know if that's true or not. Plus, Kerry was kind of a little young. He was maybe only 23 at the time. Plus, he was still into, drugs, big-time drugs and partying and stuff. So I don't know if it would have been a good fit. But I wouldn't mind Kerry Von Erich as WWE champion. He could have been a good champion. The sixth wrestler on my list is, around this time, the Junkyard Dog. The Junkyard Dog, so much charisma. He was North American champion in the Mid-South region of Mid-South wrestling. He was real popular with the fans. But in 1984, this was when he was starting to get the weight issue. He was over 300 pounds, plus he was no showing. Plus, in addition, the Junkyard Dog was African American, and a lot of people would think, would the WWE want an African American champion around that time for national expansion? That would have been a good choice. I think Junkyard Dog would have been a good choice and stuff like that. But he had a lot of demons building up around that time. But I wouldn't mind seeing him as WWE champion. Seventh wrestler on this list is Tito Santana. Tito Santana was getting to be real popular in WWE. I think he had an Intercontinental title run in 1984. He had so much charisma. He was a great wrestler. He was Hispanic, and him being WWE champion would have been very good. But I don't know if that Vince McMahon would have fit the mold for the Hispanic community. Tito Santana, it probably would have been a great champion if Vince McMahon Sr. was still running the WWE in 1984 because of his ethnic background, Spanish, and New York had a big Spanish population. But, Tito Santana, he could have been WWE champion. He would have made a great WWE champion, in my opinion. The eighth wrestler on this list is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in 1984 was still in the NWA, but he was getting to have a lot of popular fans were cheering for him and stuff like that. He wrestled basically as a face and stuff like that. And he had so much charisma and stuff. He was a great wrestler. He would have fit perfectly as WWE champion. He had the charisma, the looks, was half Polynesian and stuff. And I think he would have made a great WWE champion. I wouldn't mind have seen it. He would have made a great champion. The ninth wrestler on this list that Vince McMahon should have considered was Tommy Tommy Wildfire Rich. Tommy Rich was probably one of the most popular wrestlers in the country around 1981, 1982, because Georgia Championship Wrestling was seen nationally on Superstation WTBS, and he really had so much charisma. He had that famous feud with Buzz Sawyer, the last Battle of Atlanta. But around this time, Tommy Rich, in 1984, his star was fading. He was, out of shape and stuff. And, he still was kind of really a little popular in 1984. And Vince should have took advantage of that, because he bought time in Georgia Championship Wrestling on WTBS. And he should have, if he couldn't get a Hogan, he should have probably banked the name of Tommy Wildfire Rich to lead his company as WWE champion if he couldn't get Hogan. It probably could have worked. Tommy Rich had only a 4-day reign as NWA World Champion in 1981, but if Vince took him and he didn't have Hogan, if he capitalized on that, I think Tommy Rich would have had maybe a decent one as WWE champion. You never know. The 10th and final name on this list is kind of a little shocker. Jerry the King Lawler. In 1984, Jerry the King Lawler owned his own wrestling company in Memphis. CWA was mainstream because he had that big feud with comedian Andy Kaufman for 2 years in Memphis, Tennessee. King was real popular in Memphis, Tennessee, but when he wrestled in other wrestling territories, he was basically a heel. And I don't know if he went to New York as a face, the fans would have been behind him. But he had a mainstream name, and I could have seen the King as WWE champion in the expansion period if Vince signed him. I think he would have been great. Who knows? Not like years later when WWE signed the King to be a commentator, which, he became good as, as a commentator, and once in a while stepped into the ring. But if Vince signed Jerry the King Lawler at his prime for wrestling and couldn't have Hogan, I think the King could have fit the mold as WWE champion, and it would have been great. You never know. So this is an interesting list. I don't know what would have happened seriously if Vince did not get Hulk Hogan in 1984. That was a good choice that Vince made to get Hulk Hogan in 1984. It changed the course of wrestling, but this is a thing, what if he couldn't get him? And I like to do these interesting blogs and stuff. And these are the top 10 candidates. I had some others, but they were kind of too green, or they were too old. I considered a few others, but, they were kind of too old and stuff. I considered some heels, but all of these wrestlers were probably maybe the top 10 list on a list. Maybe Vince McMahon or Pat Patterson or whoever the booker was in WWE in 1984 had if they did not get Hogan. I think I maybe came to a disagreement as well. That's about it. If you want to, and feedback is always welcome on any of these blogs and private messages and stuff like that. I'm getting a lot of likes and stuff. I'll be back later on in the day for another one of these video blogs. And this weekend, the Hall of Fame series that I do for blogs is going on hiatus for maybe the weekend. Maybe it'd be a week because I need a break from that. This is Rich signing off for right now. Good day, Facebook friends and YouTube followers.